You're listening to the Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Catch every UFC pay-per-view live in full HD at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd.
Sports Fix listeners, don't wait all day or all week to get in on the fun. The party doesn't stop when we go off the air all week long. The Sports Fix social media sites are your one-stop shop for all things Cleveland sports. Jump over to Facebook.com/TheSportsFix, Facebook.com/TheSportsFix, and become a fan today because we love fans and they create some of the best sports talk in town, Daddy. You'll enjoy talking to your fellow Cleveland sports fans on the Sports Fix fan page. And if Twitter's your thing, well, you know how we do it. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. It's that simple.
Twitter.com/TheSportsFixCLE, baby.
Chat live with the crew during all your favorite Cleveland sports events, tickets and contests and trivia and so much more. Get with us today, The Sports Fix on social media, Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. Join the Sports Fix on Facebook and Twitter today.
Hey, it's Hugh Hewitt, and when I want to know what's going on with the Cavs, the Browns, and the Tribe, I tune into Sports Fix.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
Good afternoon. Welcome in, everybody, one and all. Hopefully you're feeling good this Monday afternoon, or maybe it's morning, perhaps it's early evening, whatever it is, wherever you're at. Thank you so much for joining us here as we kick things off the first full week of August. In effect, it was a huge weekend sports-wise. Tons of things going on. So pretty much whatever your deal was, I'm sure you had some opportunity to enjoy it this weekend. And you know we're going to talk about it here on the show. A whole lot going on. I mean, I guess the easiest way to go is the Indians, baby. Of course, we're going to talk a whole lot about the sweep. The Brooms were out this weekend. And yes, it was the last place Texas Rangers. But, baby, when you're trying to get to the playoffs, that's the series you're supposed to sweep. And we talked on Friday about how key this weekend was. The emotion was thick down at Progressive Field all weekend long, and the Indians rode that to a 3-game sweep. They now sit 3 games back in the wild card, closest they've been in quite some time. They're up above 500 again. We're going to talk all about the Indians here in a little bit. Huge weekend, and not just the results on the field, but a big weekend as well with all of the other memories and all of the different commemorations. There's the word I was looking for going on this weekend. Going to talk about Hammy and Thome. Thome officially retires, and a little bit, yeah, it's like 2 years after he's played, but I get it. Like, you held on to the, man, I'm going to play one more time. So officially re-signs with the Indians so he can retire and go into the Hall as an Indian, and we'll talk about all of that. Speaking of halls, the Hall of Fame this weekend, the center of the football universe was right here in Northeast Ohio as Canton and everybody descended upon the Hall of Fame inductions. Great ceremony, and the first football game of the year in the way, or out of the way, I should say, as we are rolling with the football season here. We'll talk about that. I'll talk about the Hall of Fame speeches here in just a minute. Football, not just getting going in the NFL. How about just getting to a fever pitch? The AFL, the Gladiators. Of course, we'll talk to Doug Plagans later on this week because we're not looking back. We're looking forward. Another playoff game to come as the Gladiators. And once again, we talked about the, Philadelphia and the both games, how tenuous winning and losing was, the difference between these teams, and they did it again, brought it down all the way to the end, a field goal on the last play of the game, and the Gladiators survive the Philadelphia Soul 39-37, nearly 13,000 fans down at the queue to watch that. They are home field, baby, all the way through. The Gladiators now get ready to host the conference championship game, and one victory away from Cleveland being the site of the Arena Bowl, which, hey, on top of the, the football part of it, that brings a lot of attention and some economic value downtown, having the championship game of the Arena Football League hosted right here. One more victory to go for those guys. Gladiators, though, big victory here, playoff win. I'm telling you, it was a feel-good weekend in sports, and especially in this area in Ohio. All of that. Brown scrimmage down in Akron going on this weekend. We'll talk about that. Dan Wismar, he may be in that state up where, but he's going to join us right here on the show as usual in a little bit. Can't wait to talk to him and all of that. The latest going on, Andrew Wiggins and his jersey pulled. We'll talk about that as the clock ticks. Andrew the Andrew Wiggins, Kevin Love, the whole thing is, it's going down. We'll talk about all of that. We're going to hit the phones. We're going to do the thing, baby. As I said, see, busy weekend, and I haven't even touched on everything. A lot to talk about here today, so let's do it. Welcome into the Sports Fix, you guys. No matter how you're listening to the show, enjoying it across the Sports Fix radio network, perhaps you're listening live on the sportsfix.net. Maybe you're streaming us on TuneIn and TuneIn's radio app worldwide on Spreaker and Mixler and all of the live places. Thank you so much for joining us. Or maybe you're one of the thousands around the world who listen on digital delay 24/7 on iHeartRadio, the world's largest internet radio provider, on iTunes and Stitcher Radio and CarPlay and all of the podcast platforms and downloads. And thank you guys so much for being with us. I am your host, the conductor of the madness here on the Sports Fix. J-Rock with you, Jerry Myers, as always, Monday through Friday, live at noon, doing what we do and doing it with you. So pick up the phone and give me a call. Already got callers on the queue. 216-539-7535 is the number to call. 216-539-7535. If you can't get through on the phones, pick up the phone. There we go. It's one of those mornings. Hit us up on Facebook. Hit us up on Twitter. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Tweet with us at TheSportsFixCLE. Email us, TheSportsFix@AOL.com. And don't forget, as we mentioned, you can listen live. Some of you are on TheSportsFix.net listening to the show. You can catch everything you need right there 24/7, whether you want to catch a show that you missed, catch an archive from 5 years ago. You can catch all of that stuff. You can directly interact with our social media right there on the page. Get the latest news headlines scrolling right across the top of the screen. Check out our sponsor banners and so much more. So when you get an opportunity, get over there and check out thesportsfix.net. And before I go to the phones, I just want to roll into a few things. Talked about the Gladiators here in this weekend. Hall of Fame weekend as well. I mean, memorable speeches and 2 hours longer than usual, by the way. They went last night, and just some good speech. Andre Reed, we talked about him last week. He didn't, he did, and he made some friends in some camps, and he didn't make some friends in other camps, talking about Johnny Manziel and all of that last week when he came in. But a very good speech, very touching speech. Of course, going to be remembered by the moment at the end where he, catches one more pass from the other half of that combination that got him to where he was up on that stage, Jim Kelly. And we know the emotion involved there anyway with Jim Kelly and his battle with cancer. And we've talked about that here on the show. And, so I just thought a really cool moment, a cool way to end that there. Michael Strahan's speech. I mean, everybody really had their moment, and a really good class this year. I think I noticed a stat. I think the 55 Pro Bowls, the combined number of Pro Bowls, it was the most decorated NFL Hall of Fame class that there's been yet, and that says a lot when you look at all the players. But as a group, as a class, one of the most decorated. 55, as I said, that was the most number of Pro Bowls amongst the group of players inducted, and that's not a be-all, end-all, although the further you go back, the more that kind of was more meaningful. I think, obviously, it lost meaning as it went along, but great class. And, hey, next year is going to be – there's a lot of guys on tap for that, too. But always love this weekend here. It's the beginning. It's something that we've talked about. I want to say Dan Wismar and I have talked about this. I'll ask him when he comes on if it was him and I. I know Jonathan Knight and I have how – it was Dan a few weeks ago about how baseball could really learn from how the NFL markets its Hall of Fame weekend and makes it such a real big event and adds more to it, and how baseball could really tie in a lot of the marketing aspects and make that whole week much more meaningful than it is with the All-Star game and all of that. And I think you can see that here. They do a great job. Say what you want, even people that aren't, the biggest football fans or preseason. I know the game is what it is, but it was exactly the first quarter that I watched yesterday. The minute I started seeing the E.J. Manuel and those guys come out, I said, man, I have a hard enough time watching the Browns when they roll into these guys. I'm not scouting the third stringers of the Giants and the Bills, so I definitely did not follow. I tailed off as that game went on, obviously, but it's the culmination of their weekend. Besides the fact that it's just an exhibition game, but it's the kind of the kickoff of the season, and you've got all the ceremonies and things, and not just that too, though. They've got a lot of high dollar things down there for the autograph signings and stuff, but man, just going down there, I'm telling you, I talked to people. I probably talked to a couple of dozen listeners that were down there this weekend that just had cell phones full of pictures that they took with guys that they just literally ran into. I mean, Hall of Famers throughout all of the events, and most of them, I might hear the occasional story of a guy that's not, but literally to a man, they're all obliging. They're happy to be there. That's why they're out there, just out and about and mingling. So it's really, really a cool thing. Baseball, I'm telling you, man, they could learn from that aspect of it and make their weekend even better, or their whole week, make that whole thing better, build the Hall of Fame into it. It was Dan, because we were talking about the Field of Dreams aspect and playing a game there and stuff like that. And I know there's a difference when it's in the middle of the season compared to when it's before the season and it's an exhibition game. I mean, teams don't exactly want to go play an exhibition game in the middle of a season that counts, and I get that. But I think there's a lot that can be done there, because they do a good job putting it on front and center and celebrating their history. And baseball's it's rich in history, and we know that they're losing the younger fan, and I think if they celebrate their history in a different way, just market it differently, you could really capture some of that lapsed fan base. But anyways, always one of my favorite weekends here. Football is rolling because the Browns, their first game coming up this weekend, practice this week. They're getting ready for it. We'll talk Browns in a little bit because they're practicing. Indians baseball going on this weekend, not just on the field where they swept the Texas Rangers, but legacies honored. We talked about it on Friday, looking forward to it. Tom Hamilton celebrated for his 25 years of calling the Indians games and just being one of the best at what he does. And then Jim Thome, they even threw a little wrinkle into that with Thome signing the one-day contract so that he could officially go into retirement as a member of the Indians. They unveiled his statue with the familiar pointing of the bat, and I'll tell you what, a lot of people, dozens, speaking of people that went to the Hall of Fame, even more. I got pictures of people that all took their pictures over the weekend from being there. And my man Bruce had a great weekend. He told me, because I don't know if I've ever told you guys, but he got, he's a memorabilia guy, man. And he was involved in the process of putting that statue together, helped out quite a bit, and it was pretty cool, man. Just hearing from different people like him, a couple of other people that had some cool memories from that. But the Indians took, and it's what you got to do, by the way, when you're playing last place team, 20-some games under 500, and you're trying to, whether it's artificial or not, keep those playoff hopes alive. And they did just that. They used the momentum of the weekend. It started Friday night. I mean, right off of Hammy and into Saturday, but with the blowout Friday night. We'll talk about the ins and outs of the games. One thing I do want to mention, because, hey, the Jim Thome statue, everybody, of course, happy to see that, but I have to mention the same thing I always mention when we talk about that, and it's the one thing that we got the most reaction from over the weekend. And I know the Indians' response, because I've asked the Indians about it, but and I've heard it before. It's because he's got the street name. But I always, and I'm first because he really, I love Jim Thome. I do. I appreciate what he did, and I'm not one of those guys that vilifies him for leaving. I don't, but I also don't necessarily I'm kind of in the middle. I'm indifferent about that aspect of it. But the Larry Doby thing, and Andre Knott and I have talked about this before several times, and I agree with the argument that I think I get it, that they named something else after him, but man, I really thought that he should have had the next statue designation. And again, the Indians say, hey, we did better than a statue. We memorialized Larry Doby even more with Larry Doby Way. But to me, that's not